Why are you so jealous? Do you even know? Do you even realize that you're jealous? That's what we're going to talk about tonight. We are going to talk about this green-eyed monster that has been riding so many of your backs for so long that you don't know how to get him off. He's all up in here. He's clawing about the neck and slashing and carrying on with you. And we're going to talk about why you're so jealous, how you got to be that way, what are you going to do to make it all better. You know, my husband said something interesting to me earlier today. He was like, well, babe, can't jealousy be good and bad? Like, aren't there different types of jealousy? And I said, that's an interesting theory. I said, we're going to talk about it tonight. So, one of the things that I used to say when I was in denial about the fact that I was insanely jealous, because once upon a time I was insanely jealous. But I didn't identify it as jealousy. I identified it as being territorial. And I am, actually. Let me just go ahead and set the record straight on that. I am extremely, extremely territorial. But as I look back in retrospect and get honest with me about, life's journey and the different things that I experienced in relationships, I very quickly came to the conclusion that I did have a period in my life where I was jealous. And when you think about what the root of jealousy is, the root of jealousy could be self-esteem issues. It could be a poor self-image. It could be a lack of confidence. It could be that you don't feel attractive. You're not self-accepting, and it's so important for you. And I tell you this week after week after week, it is so incredibly important that you make a conscious decision to be honest with yourself, because you cannot resolve an issue if you don't acknowledge that it's an issue. The first step to recovery is admitting that you have a problem. So when it comes to jealousy, you have to really be able to take a step back and ask yourself, some important questions. What is it that is going on inside of you that is leading you to behave in these ways that are going to get you in trouble if you keep doing it? Particularly, and I'm going to sort of tease it out a little bit, because we don't just see jealousy in the context of intimate relationships. You may be jealous of other men, or you may be jealous of other women as it relates to your relationship, but you can also be jealous of coworkers. You can also be jealous of siblings. You can be jealous of other family members. You can be jealous of friends. It shows up in a lot of different relationship contexts, and you have to be able to get real with yourself and really get a much deeper, clearer understanding of why. I remember, one of the things that I used to say growing up to my girlfriends and even family members and friends is that I really didn't understand initially why what appeared to me was such intense hate for me, particularly when I entered high school. I didn't understand it, and quite frankly, I didn't even care to. But what became clear to me is that there were people who were jealous of me. I was oblivious to that because I didn't feel like there was anything about me that would justify or warrant someone being jealous of me. But the reality of it was very clear to me. I had never done anything to anybody. I had never said anything to anybody. I didn't bother anybody. I minded my own business. So when, by process of elimination, it's like, okay, well, what's their issue with me? The issue is jealousy. Well, why? Because people had issues. Insecurity, self-esteem, well, how come somebody is paying attention to her and not paying attention to me? And you find yourself, and we talk about this all the time, right? People are comparing themselves to other people. Well, I'm nice. How come nobody's paying attention to me? How come I'm not the cool kid? How come I'm not the popular kid? Or whatever the case may be. And it fuels these raw emotions that people don't want to be honest about, that they don't want to confront. And before you know it, jealousy has sort of taken root in your life. One of the things that it's really important for you to take into consideration, and as always, I want to challenge you, I want to encourage you, engage with me, talk to me, give me feedback, ask me questions. Let's have a virtual dialogue about these topics week in and week out. But one of the things that I want you to ask yourself, if you are man enough, woman enough, girl enough, boy enough to own the fact that you in fact are a jealous person, I want you to ask yourself this question: what are my jealous feelings telling me? You have to ask yourself that question so that you can get a much deeper understanding of why these emotions are ruling you. You know, you hear me talk from time to time about the fear of abandonment and the fear of rejection. And for some of you, that jealousy is being fueled by this internal conversation, this negative conversation that you're having with yourself that has convinced you that you're going to lose the person because you're not fill in the blank enough, right? You're going to be left alone. You're going to end up by yourself because this person is not going to love you enough, is not going to like you enough, is not going to think that you're handsome enough or you're beautiful enough or you're sexy enough or whatever the case may be. And you need to be able to get a handle on that and really get a much deeper understanding, first and foremost, of the situations and circumstances where you start to see those jealous feelings rear up in you. You've got to be able to put your finger on the pulse. It's like, oh, so am I only jealous, or am I only feeling feelings of jealousy, when we go out for the evening or we're going somewhere and I feel like somebody's dressed better than me, or somebody has a more expensive car than me, or a nicer pair of tennis shoes, or whatever the case may be. You have to be willing to understand what's behind it, right? And for some of you, it may be a way of life. And what I mean by that is you may come from a household where folk were jealous and acting off when, they felt threatened, because that's a part of it, right? That fear of abandonment, that fear of rejection, you feel threatened that this person, whether it's a partner, a family member, or whoever, when I think about the territoriality that I demonstrated, it wasn't just in my intimate relationships. I was so fearful of abandonment and rejection in my youth that I wasn't real fond of folk that got too close to my grandparents. I wasn't real fond of folks that got too close to my friends. I wasn't real fond of folks that got too close to really anybody that I loved and cared about. And you've heard me use those descriptors before. Those descriptors show up in people that have an anxious, insecure attachment style. It's driven by fear. It's driven by the fact that I'm afraid of losing you. And because I'm afraid of losing you, because I'm afraid that I'm not lovable enough, because I'm afraid that I'm not likable enough, because I'm afraid that I don't have what it takes to keep you as a part of my circle of influence, a part of the people that I love and care about the most, I start acting a little crazy if my brain tells me that my relationship is in jeopardy. Whether it's manufactured or real, if I believe that this relationship is in danger of being lost, chances are that jealousy is going to rear its ugly head, and it's going to show up in all sorts of destructive ways. So when we think about some of those destructive ways that it shows up, here we go. Whoo. Breathe. Take a deep breath, everybody. Take a deep breath. Are you following folks? Are you checking phones? Are you hijacking and lowjacking vehicles and social media platforms? And are you a peeping Tom or a peeping Thomasina and scoping folks out, calling the job to make sure they're really there? Are you checking the mileage, God forbid, are you checking the mileage on somebody's vehicle because you know that the job is only 8.3 miles from the house and they said that they were coming straight home? Really? Isn't it exhausting? It's exhausting just hearing me say it. It has to be. But some of you are that jealous. Some of you are that insecure. Some of you are that paranoid or that far gone or that intensely stressed and afraid that you're going to lose this relationship that you have hung your hat on, that you have hung your apron and everything else on, and it means the world to you. And you're so terrified that you're going to lose this relationship that you get to acting crazy. You create scenes, you checking phone records, you're following, you're stepping the folk out in public, you're doing all of these things that are making you crazy, not literally, but making you feel crazy. You're driving a wedge between you and your partner because that's not cute. What you're not going to do is embarrass me. We're not going to do that. But some of you will. You will turn a bar, a club, a bank, Walmart, Target, the doctor's office. You will turn a place completely out because you feel as if, because your brain, because your cognitive distortions, your rickety thoughts told you that the doctor, the nurse, the other patients was looking at your partner or somebody sideways. You feel threatened by, I'm going to go there. You feel threatened by your daughter's boyfriend's mother because you feel like your child is closer to the boyfriend's mom than she is to you. You feel like your son is closer to his girlfriend's father than he is to you. You feel like your child would rather be any place else on planet Earth but home spending time with you. And before you know it, jealousy is rearing its ugly head. You're jealous of everything and everybody that you perceive is a threat to your relationship, whatever that relationship dynamic is. So, what are you going to do? Are you going to continue to be ruled by your emotions, by your insecurities, by all of these things that are contributing to you, in actuality, causing more problems in your relationship? Because here's what I want you to think about. I'm about to throw a monkey wrench in your whole groove. So oftentimes, people think that manipulation or being overbearing and controlling and domineering is the way to get somebody to do what you want them to do. I'm going to argue that that's not necessarily the case. What I've seen happen and what I bear witness to, what I have lived, is that when you function like that, not only do you push the people that you love and care about away, regardless of the relationship dynamic, but you also create this funky space for folk to start lying to you. You also create this funky space for folk to start engaging in all types of deceptive behaviors, because they already know that if they're open and honest with you about what they're really thinking, what they're really feeling, or what it is they really want to do, that you're going to act like a park ape. So to keep the peace, they start tap dancing around you. And then you know what you do? You come into therapy, or you argue, moan, groan, and complain, and you whine, fuss, and fight about, all she does is lie, all he does is lie. They don't tell me the truth, this, that, and the other. And then, Dr. Pitt says, well, have you created an emotionally safe space for whomever, whether it's your child, because kids will lie to you too, whether it's your child or your partner or a sibling or whomever. If you are not willing to create an emotionally safe space, it's highly unlikely that folks are going to feel comfortable being completely open and honest with you. So what I'm saying to you is, if you know that you're a jealous person, or if what I've shared with you thus far has made you go, I didn't realize that I'm jealous, but maybe I am. I want you to consider the importance of those emotions being an indication to you that not only do you have some self-work to do, but you also have to take a look at what damage your jealous behavior has caused to your relationships. And if the relationship really is that important to you, it's going to be imperative that you make a decision to address the underlying issues that are fueling your jealousy. So I'm going to give you 10 things that I want you to think about whether or not this is you. And if it's you definitely checking off the boxes that it's official, you're a jealous person. Do you have concerns about loss of your partner or somebody else that you love and care about's affection, attention? Or are you concerned that you're going to lose them to somebody else? Do you find yourself having obsessive thoughts or frequent accusations about your partner being with another person and being verbally or physically intimate with that person? Do you find yourself monitoring your partner's activities based on your suspicion that they may be cheating on you? Do you engage in controlling, overbearing, domineering behavior that restricts the activity of your partner or somebody else that you love and care about? I'm going to pause there for a second, because I really want you to understand that so oftentimes we talk about jealousy in the context of intimate relationships. But my guess is that each one of you that's tuned in tonight can think of at least one person in your life that's just jealous. They're jealous of everything and everybody. They're jealous of their coworkers. They're jealous of their cousins. They're jealous of their siblings. They're jealous of their mama. They're jealous of their dad. They're just jealous. They're just a jealous person. And when we see that, people, and as you can imagine, as a clinician, I hear all types of horror stories all day, every day. And when I think about some of the things that I've heard over the years where jealousy is a problem in relationships, I've heard stories where parents were deliberate and intentional in sabotaging their child's relationship with the child's friend because they were jealous of the relationship that their child had with the friend's parents. I've seen situations where a partner deliberately created rifts between their partner and the partner's parents because they were afraid that their partner was too close to their parent, and that because the parent didn't like them, the parent was going to come in between the relationship and destroy it. So it's really important that you know it's not just about your intimate relationship. Your jealousy can be showing up in all types of ways. So keep that in mind as I'm sharing sort of like these descriptors for you to evaluate just how jealous you are. Do you have feelings of anger regarding a perceived loss of face to friends and family because your partner didn't show enough loyalty or attention to you? Do you have angry outbursts directed at your partner or other people that you perceive are infringing upon this, the stability and the sustainability of your relationship, whatever the relationship dynamic is? Are you blaming other people, whether it's your partner, friends, siblings, or whatever, that they're not trustworthy, or that they're not being honest with you? Do you have depressive feelings at the thought of losing the relationship, or the relationship not being the quality that you want it to be? Do you have a fear of not being able to cope if that relationship comes to an end? Do you find yourself having issues with anxiety because of your perceived threat to the relationship? If these things describe you, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you have a problem with jealousy. And if you don't acknowledge it, and you are not willing to take the necessary steps to address it, know that it is a strong possibility that it will consume you. And when it consumes you, all types of bad things can happen. All types of bad things can happen. And you don't want that to be your story. So let's talk about some ways, and I'm going to sort of teeter-totter and flip in and out of different types of relationships as I walk you through this. So first and foremost, as I said, you have to be willing to acknowledge that you have an issue with jealousy. That's the first thing that you have to do. The first step to recovery is you have to admit that you have a problem. But then the other thing that I really want you to be mindful of is you have to look in the mirror. You have to look in the mirror, and you have to acknowledge, do you have self-esteem issues? And why do you have self-esteem issues? Who told you that you weren't lovable enough? Who told you that you weren't good enough? Who told you that you weren't worthy? Who told you that you weren't smart enough? Who told you that you weren't sexy enough? Who told you that you didn't make enough money? And then, after you identify who told you all of these lies, I want you to ask yourself this: why did I choose to believe them? Hasn't anybody ever told you that it's not so much what people say to you, it's what you say to yourself that matters? You hear me talk every single solitary week about the internal negative narrative, the internal scripts, the things that you say to yourself that keep you in this perpetual cycle of woundedness. And at some point in time, you have got to take responsibility and accountability for speaking life to yourself and not defeat and distress and despair. You have to be willing to know beyond the shadow of a doubt the things that you are saying to yourself that are failing you. Because I guarantee you, if you are a jealous person, you are saying things to yourself and about the person or the people that you're jealous of and the people that you're afraid of losing because of your jealousy. You are saying things to yourself that are perpetuating those emotions, that are causing that green-eyed monster to roar and to spit fire and to burn the house down. What are you telling yourself? Ask yourself where the trust is. Because, and I know you know it, trust is a major part of jealousy. Dr. Pitts, what do you mean? I'm so glad you asked. If I can trust you, as my mama used to say, down the street and around the corner, why is there any need whatsoever for jealousy to come into play? Because when I trust you, what that says is that I am sure, I am certain of my position in your life. And I don't have to be concerned with you replacing me with someone or something else. Because just so you know, jealousy goes beyond, you can be jealous of jobs, you can be jealous of income, you can be jealous of all types of tangible things, but you got to get clarity on why that is. Can I trust you? That's what you should be asking. Stop asking whether or not you're going to be left for him or her or it. Can I trust you? Am I safe with you? Do I have a sense of security in my place and space in your life? Because if I do, why on earth should I be jealous? I know that I'm your person. I know that you love me and respect me and value me and appreciate me as your partner, as your sister, as your best friend, as your cousin, whatever. Jealous. I said to my husband one time about a situation, I said, you don't ever have to worry about anybody else. And you don't even have to trust them. Trust me. Trust me because I've never given you a reason not to. I wake up every day, good, bad, or indifferent, behaving in such a way that reassures my spouse that he is secure in his position as my husband. There should not be any doubt. Good, bad, or indifferent, good days, bad days, whatever the day, there should be no doubt. And that's what I say to you. Your conduct should convey the message that whoever it is that you're in a relationship with, whatever that relationship dynamic is, it could be mama-child, it could be father-child. I'm not worried about somebody else taking my place as Andre's mom, because I pride myself on being a stellar mom. So whether it's him calling, because he calls my mom. I'm not jealous of my mom because he calls my mom. I'm not jealous of his dad's mom because he calls his dad's mom. He calls us all mom. Sometimes he calls them mom, but I'm a good mom. What I got to be jealous for? You have to get secure in your position within the lives of those that you love and care about most. And if you're not secure, it's time to evaluate whether your insecurity is legitimately justified based on whatever it is that's going on in the relationship, or if it's up here. And you need to get that straight by doing the self-work. But you can't if you won't acknowledge it. I hope I'm making sense. You have to be willing to openly and honestly discuss the emotions that are behind your jealous behavior and acts. You want to be able to do that clearly. You want to be able to do that respectfully. In other words, I'll give you a prime example. So my husband and I were taking care of some business the other day, and we had to step away. We stepped away for a few moments, and when we came back, I just said very innocently, very jokingly, "Did y'all miss me?" And it was two male business people. And my husband said jokingly, he said, "I know you're not flirting." And I said, "I've literally never done that to you a day in my life." And we laughed about it and moved on. Why? Because I've literally never said or done anything to disrespect him in his life. And he knows that I just would not do that. But here's the moral to it. We laughed it off and kept it moving because he's secure. I don't get down like that. So he knows me. And that's what I'm saying to you. Do you know, really intimately know the people that you're in various relationships with? And if you really, really know them, that should be an indication to you whether or not you're legitimately secure in that relationship. And if you're not legitimately secure, here's the hard part. You have to be willing to have the hard conversation. You have to be willing to discuss why you're feeling what you're feeling. If there's anything that they're doing that are exacerbating those feelings. And here's the thing, folks. If you're calmly, rationally, respectfully trying to communicate your emotional experience with whomever it is you're connected to, and they're rejecting that and throwing it up in your face and get over into this gaslighting and trying to make you feel like you're crazy, that in and of itself is a problem. And you've heard me say, and I will continue to say, you got to do personal inventory. Folks are so afraid because of the fear of abandonment, because of the fear of rejection. They're so afraid of putting firm boundaries in place in their relationships that it leaves you wide open for folk to just say and do whatever they want to you. And then you get mad. You get mad at them for behaving in a way that you don't like, but as long as you continue to tolerate that behavior, it's the same thing as saying that it's okay. So why on earth would they change? If you tolerate your partner being, for real, out flirting and behaving in inappropriate manners, if you tolerate that mess, why would they stop? And here's the thing, you don't stop that behavior by turning the club out. You don't stop that behavior by creating a scene in Walmart or Target or wherever. You got to have some mature, responsible adult conversations that set the record straight. And here's the thing. I know that this is the part that people struggle with. People say to me all the time, "Dr. Pitts, how can you put firm boundaries in place with folks that are grown?" I'm probably the wrong person to ask that because I'm not afraid to impose consequences. I'm not. And I don't want to see people end up in divorce court. I don't want to see everybody end up broken up in the whole 9 yards. But at some point in time, the line has to be drawn in the sand. If you allow people to treat you like trash, they'll treat you like trash. If you allow people to disrespect you and carry you any old type of way, they're going to continue to do it. And you're going to deal with all of the pain that comes with that. I'm just not that person. I'm not, and I don't know what to tell you. I'm not telling people to get a divorce. I'm not telling people to break up. I'm not telling people to divorce their parents and to never speak to their siblings and stuff again. What I'm saying to you is each of us sets the standard for how other people treat us. And because we set the standard for how other people treat us, many of you are in situations where you have to teach people new ways of treating you because they're conditioned to handle you any old type of way because you've always allowed it. But it doesn't have to be that way. I was talking to somebody today and they were saying to me that they went through a period of time where they realized they had to let all of their friends go because they were making some changes in their life and the friends were into stuff that they weren't in. And the individual said, Dr. Pitts, I literally, I had to let them all go. And I went through a period of loneliness, but I'm at a place and space in my life now where I have more closer, intimate, healthy relationships than I've ever had in my life because I had to let all that baggage go. So many of you are afraid to do that. You're afraid to put the brakes on and say, you know what? No more of this mess. And again, I'm not saying get a divorce. I'm not saying break up. I'm saying grow up. I'm saying whether it's some sort of therapeutic intervention or spiritual intervention or whatever the case may be, there comes a point in time where if you walking around mad and jealous and fire breathing, jagging and burning it down because every time you go out in public, your partner is flirting and ha and kiki all up in somebody's face all the time. Houston, we got a problem. That's a boundary issue. That's a respect issue. You're forfeiting your power to someone else's behavior that's totally contrary to your value system. And you got to be willing to take that bull by the horns. And I'm not suggesting for a moment that it would be easy. Where are we at on time? We got plenty of time. One of the other things that comes up when jealousy rears its ugly head is that oftentimes jealousy comes into play because needs aren't being met. And again, this is applicable to any type of relationship. There's activities that I do with my clients around needs that didn't get met or desires that didn't get fulfilled in their relationship with their parents, as well as previous, or even current romantic partners. There's so many ways that our needs get met in relationships. It should be this fluid exchange. And when it's not, and you see the person meeting the needs of somebody else and your needs don't seem to matter, the jealousy can come into play. But you have to be willing to have that conversation. And part of how you have that conversation is you do it in a positive, productive, constructive way, meaning that you identify the strengths in your relationship. You identify the strengths, you identify the areas that your needs are being met within the relationship, again, whatever that relationship dynamic is. But you also have to provide clarity on, what needs aren't being met and why the behavior. This is where people get jammed up. They want to attack the person. The person really isn't who you have the issue with. It's the behavior that's demonstrated by the person. The behavior is what we do. It's not who we are. So part of how you address that in a pro-social way is you literally, you know what? I want to spend quality time with you. And again, this could be any relationship, right? I want to spend quality time with my mom, but my mom spends more time hanging out with her friends than she does with me. Hey, Mom, when you forget my birthday, it really makes me sad, especially when I see so much emphasis being put on A, B, C, D, and E's birthday, right? You're separating the person from the behavior. You're communicating how the particular behavior is contributing to your emotional experience. And because you have this sense of loss of your relationship with your mom. You feel like she pays more attention to her girlfriends or to her boyfriend or to her job than she does to you. You now find yourself feeling jealous of whatever it is that she is giving her time and energy to rather than you. So you have to be able to identify that. And again, it's one of those things, and I know this is a hard pill for people to swallow. You always have to take into consideration what a person's capacity is, right? And this is what I mean by that. For some people who have difficulty being emotionally available, it's easier for them to have superficial relationships that they don't have to be emotionally invested in than it is for them to have an emotionally intimate relationship with you. So you're finding yourself in a position where you're jealous of friends, of jobs, of siblings, you're jealous of whomever. And in actuality, it's not that person or that relationship is getting more from the person that you want the time and the attention and the energy from. In actuality, it's the opposite. They're requiring less of them than you are. And so what I'm saying is you're jealous of something that's not even exactly what you think it is. So you have to go deep. You have to go beyond the surface of what is going on in your life so that you can get a much clearer understanding of what's fueling your jealousy, how it's being interpreted by the people that you love and care about. How do you fix it? How do you get stronger and better? One of the things that can help you to do that is we call it clinically, we call it a jealousy timeline. And what I mean by that is, like, you didn't come out the womb jealous, right? You didn't come out the womb a jealous person. So you have to just sit. You don't have to physically write it down. I'm not giving you homework or anything like that. But just be still for a minute and think about, when did I start showing signs of jealousy? For some of you, it's going to go back to childhood. For some of you, it's going to go all the way back to when a sibling was born. For some of you, it's going to go all the way back to when your parent married your step parent and the stepkids came into play and you felt like they got treated better than you. You know, it's going to be different times for different people. But what could be helpful for you in really getting a better understanding of why you're battling with this green-eyed monster is reflecting upon when the jealousy started, what was going on in your life, who was involved, what were the experiences that you were having, and oh, by the way, my husband says I say that all the time, and oh, by the way, how did it evolve to get to the place and space with the degree of jealousy that you have now? You want to be able to get to the root of it so that you can better understand yourself and deal with it, unless, of course, you like being jealous and creating scenes and getting all huffy and puffy and tight and having an attitude and being accused of acting crazy and all of the things that come with people who demonstrate these behaviors associated with jealousy. So a big part of what's also going to help you is identify what behaviors need to change. So that's actually going to be what I believe is a holistic approach to getting your jealousy under control. So what does that look like, Dr. Pitts? This is what it looks like. It looks like if trust is at the root of the issue and why you find yourself acting away. Because, you know, some people say, well, Dr. Pitts, you know what? I never had an issue with jealousy until my partner cheated on me. I never had an issue with jealousy until my son got this girlfriend and he seems to want to spend more time with her family than he does with us. I never started having an issue with jealousy until my daughter got married and she was always daddy's girl, but now she doesn't have any time for me because, I mean, I know it sounds crazy, But jealousy comes out in all types of ways for people. So you want to make sure that you're getting that clarity. You're going to pay attention to what you're saying to yourself. You have to look inward. When you think about it realistically, your jealousy is being triggered because of what I said a little while ago. Something you're telling yourself. You are believing that the relationship is at risk. And because you feel threatened, because you have convinced yourself or other things are verifying for you that the relationship is in jeopardy, you're spazzy. But you have to look within, and you have to do the soul searching. You have to be able to connect the dots between what you're telling yourself, the emotions that you're feeling, and what's really going on, so that you can determine whether or not those raw emotions, is it fear? Is it insecurity? Is it insignificance? Is it abandonment? What is it? It might even be embarrassment or shame or humiliation. You might feel like you're about to be replaced or your relationship is at risk because of something you previously did that you still feel embarrassed or ashamed about. But you have to be able to connect those dots. You have to be willing and able to identify if those emotions are being driven by your own insecurities, the lies that you tell yourself about how you look, how you function, how you navigate life, how you're showing up in the relationship. Is what you're thinking realistic, or is it distorted? You have to be willing to identify if there's a much deeper problem going on in the relationship. And if it is, you have to be willing to talk it through and out. You have to be willing to have the elephant in the room conversations so that you all can get on the same page. You have to be clear on what it is you really want out of the relationship, regardless, whether it's an intimate relationship, whether it's parent, child, sibling, it doesn't matter. Whatever the relationship dynamic is, you have to be clear on what you want from that relationship. And oh, by the way, do it unapologetically. Be realistic, be fair. But again, relationships are about having needs met. There's a fluid exchange. And if you find yourself constantly on the end of the seesaw where your needs are constantly being dismissed and disregarded, that's a deeper issue. You also, where applicable, because this is not going to be the case, you can't, like, oh, you're not going to be my mom anymore. Oh, you're not going to be my dad anymore. Oh, you're not going to be my brother and be my sister, and people do it, but it's dysfunctional as heck. You have to know when it's time to shake your tree. Because some of you, to a fault, are in relationships perhaps that you should have never been in the first place. Some of you, because of your fear of abandonment, because your fear of rejection, all signs, all the stars, the moons, and the suns are pointing to the fact that this is not a healthy, fulfilling, and sustainable relationship that you should be in, but you're holding on for dear life, and it's really time for you to opt out. It's time for you to recognize that it's time to go. And here's something to think about for those of you that are holding on for dear life, but it's time for you to go. How can you ever receive what's meant for you, what was purposed and predestined for you, if you won't let go of what you're holding on to? And then the last thing that I want to tell you is you have to be willing to learn how to be deliberate and intentional in staying calm. In other words, I want you to learn how to increase your tolerance for frustration, not so that people can just keep bombarding you with things that frustrate you, but so that you can learn how to properly regulate your emotions, so that you are not a slave to your emotions. So you're not a slave to the green-eyed monster that has you out in public acting a plum fool. So that you're not screaming and yelling and hooping and hollering and cussing and fussing at your kids because you're jealous of their friend's mom or all of the different things. Y'all know I'm telling you the truth. This jealousy shows up in so many different contexts. It shows up amongst teammates. It shows up amongst siblings. It shows up amongst parents and it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And you will never be able to get a handle on it if you don't understand why you're struggling with it in the first place. That's my encouragement to you tonight. Look in the mirror. Be honest with yourself about why you're in this place and space, and jealousy is driving you to behave in ways that are totally contrary to how you should be behaving. And make a conscious decision to do the work that you need to do to be a stronger, healthier, better version of yourself. So you're not walking up and down the street, walking through the house, walking through the club, the mall, or wherever else it is you go with this green dragon on your back, sort of slopping along, biting you and breathing on you and fueling you acting in a way that is compromising the integrity, health, strength, and sustainability of your relationships. That's all I got. Have a good night. As always, I have to go to session. I got folk that I need to help get better. I'll see y'all next Thursday. Bye-bye.